So would you consider cooking skills when choosing a spouse? Now this question is going to be for both male and female. Of course, it's that gender. I am Atinuke Nuke, and we're not going to stop at that. We're going to be talking about that. And of course, the End Bad Governance protest. How has it been at your end? And on Girl Talk Unusual, we will be talking about body odor. How would you tell your spouse they have a body odor? Or if you have one, how are you managing it? All right, okay. So first of all, we'll go to street trends with Zara. Zara is speaking to people about cooking skills. Let's hear what they have to say.
We often hear men talk about why they are women or wife-to-be should, or as a matter of fact, must have a good cooking skill to be considered for marriage. In fact, it's been said that a lot of marriages have crashed on the basis of this. Today on Street Trends, we'll be talking to people to know why they think this should be a criteria for choosing who to spend the rest of your life with.
I am against it because if your wife don't know how to cook, you can teach the person, or you can even train the person, or call somebody for your wife, for somebody for her to teach her.
Well, first criteria for getting married, from her character, she must know how to cook. Because if the woman does not know how to cook, the man will go outside and be eating outside, and you know that is spending of money. You know, it's better for your woman to know how to cook, so that by the time that you are coming back from work, maybe you are tired, you are exhausted. You know that okay, you are coming back home, we are going to eat a good food, and you are going to feel relaxed and go to bed. So I'm in support of a man getting married to a woman that knows how to cook.
In our African culture, actually, a woman is supposed to know how to cook. That's certain. We are not white. We can't be imitating the Western every other time. We are Africans. Let's say the way it is. Then secondly, I think it depends on the man. If a man does not think the girl he loves should know how to cook, then I guess it's okay. It all depends on the male parts. But no man wants to marry, most men don't want to marry a girl and they have to be eaten outside. There is cholera outbreak. So if you marry a wife and she can't cook in this outbreak, I don't think you'll be happy about it.
I'm a practicing Muslim. Marriage, if you are marrying somebody's daughter, you are not marrying her to come to your house as a house help or as somebody as a slave. That institution, the both of that institution is not for her to come and cook for you. And if she's cooking for you, she's assisting you. So it's like putting your child in school for mentorship. That is the purpose. Why marriage is a different thing, differently. But some of us, because of our cultural upbringing, we abuse it. So it's good. What is wrong? If your wife doesn't know how to cook, you can take her to a catering school for her to learn, which is better.
And there you have it. That's the voice of the street. I am Zahra Abdul Kabir.
What comes to your mind when you hear about mass atrocities? Well, the End Bad Governance protest just took place, and as a result of that, a whole lot of destructions happened in various states where it took place. We'll be talking to Abiodun Bayewu on the effect of mass atrocities and the way forward. This is That Gender, the program that beams the searchlight on women. We know about the protest going on right now, and of course, anything that has to do with insecurity, mass atrocities will always, have direct or indirect impact on women, and on the long run, it may have impact on children and the family at large. So today we have Abiodun Bayewu. She is the Executive Director, Global Rights, Nigeria. And we would ask a couple of questions. And yes, to add to her being the Executive Director, she is also a lover of women and women advocacy and a lover of human rights. That is actually why we are having her today on That Gender and Women Voices. You're very much welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, okay, so let's go straight onto it. We know you've been an advocate of human rights particularly, and then of course getting it right. And then we've attended some of you may not know, but I have attended some of your speech, and I see how passionate you are when it has to do with getting it right and of course nipping the current situation of insecurity in the bud. But sadly to say that it doesn't look like it's getting any better. So I would want you to discuss a little about the insecurity, how it started in Nigeria and the present state, as much as civil society, government and other organizations have tried to reduce it or bring it to the barest minimum. We'd just like you to just go around that before we go straight on to it.
Well, thank you so much. I think the first thing we should note that insecurity has been a constant in Nigeria since pre-colonial times. With the incursion of colonial rule, our societies became not what they used to be. They became very insecure. People were afraid of colonial administrations, and it caused a lot of friction, especially with the divide and rule tactics of the colonialists. Then going on to years of military rule that also made people feel insecure. Security is not just about government. It's more about the people in a country than just a few secure men at the top. And I say men advisedly. And the situation has degenerated over the years, as you have seen that the number of killings in our countries has exponentially increased. I think the point where people started to pay attention was when the crisis in the Northeast became very obvious to everyone, and more people were getting killed in the Northeast with very little attention paid to other parts of the country. And that over time, other parts of the country also then fell prey to mass atrocities. It's not just about people getting killed, it's about women feeling insecure because of the increase in sexual violence, is the fact that we can no longer send children to school on their own for fear that they will be kidnapped. It is that you cannot afford to walk the streets of your neighborhood and feel safe at night. You have to put gates at your doors, and you have to ensure that you have extra protection around you at all times. That is not a secure society. It's about elections being peaceful, without having to deploy soldiers and all the policemen in our arsenal out. That even our elections are insecure. So yes, Nigeria has become really insecure, and it's multidimensional. The forms of insecurity that we suffer are multidimensional.
All right, let's talk about the current protests, the End Bad Governance protest. Would you draw a nexus between this protest and insecurity, even though it's focused on hunger?
Oh, it's really about insecurity. The hunger is about insecurity. Farmers are no longer able to go into their farms and plant and harvest crops like they used to. Transportation of food from one state or from the rural area to the urban area has become near impossible. And so apart from the little food importation that we do, most of our staples come from the farms. The farms are no longer secure. Farmers are no longer secure. Agrarian communities are no longer secure. The whole of Benue State is down on his knees, as is Plateau, as is Taraba. And those are places where our grains come from, that our yams come from, that our staples, our peppers and our tomatoes come from. And that since those places are unsafe, that there is fewer yields and there is hunger in the land. It was easily predictable 5 years ago that this day would finally come. As a matter of fact, that it came slower than most of us had expected. So it's really about insecurity.
Okay, do you think this protest has solved more than it has triggered the issue?
I think that it has brought the issues to light. I think that what Nigerians have been trying to tell the government for a long time is we need to solve these problems. And the government has been tone deaf. The protest has pushed the government to a point where they must hear what the people are saying. They can hear what the people are saying. The bigger question is, are they listening? I'm afraid it feels as though they are not listening at this point in time. I'm hoping they get it before the protests degenerate into something else. But this is the frustration of people organically voting with their feet.
Okay, so I wouldn't want to delve into politics. If not, I would have just added that the president responded with the the speech and all of that. But if I go into that, it will seem like one is politicizing the.
I don't think it's politics.
Okay.
I think that all politics is local. Every aspect of our lives is politically inclined. It's linked to politics. The people have come out and they've protested. The president has come out to address the protest. The question is, did he address the issues that they raised? I fear not. I also feel that the response was more than the speech that the president made. It was also about how the police, the law enforcement interacted with protesters. People were killed. Protesters had given the government sufficient time to prepare for the protest, to ensure the security of protesters. During that time, the government had the time to get rubber bullets, to get water sprays, to also dialogue with citizens, all of which they failed to do. Rather, they got counter-protesters, live bullets, and tear gas. And tear gas were released in places where there was no violence. And the use of live bullets itself was murder. It wasn't containing the peace. It was aggravating protesters. So the response was inadequate and it violated human rights norms.
Okay, so talking about human rights norms, let's see how all of this insecurity have direct impact on women.
Well, women have been the face of insecurity in Nigeria. First, like I spoke about sexual violence and that the threshold of sexual violence in our country has exponentially risen. Most people did not know the gravity of what was going on in the Northeast till the kidnap of the Chibok girls. But girls are systematically being kidnapped in the Northeast long before the Chibok girls occurred. Across Nigeria, women are getting kidnapped. Fewer girls are able to go to school because of the fear of them getting kidnapped when they go to school and becoming sex slaves to insurgents, whether it is in the Northeast or the Northwest. In other parts of the country as well, where you also have the secessionist movements going on in the Southeast, no one is talking about the impact it's having on women and children, particularly the gender-based violence that is going on concurrently. The gender-based violence is also going on in Kaduna, in Benue State, in Yobe State, across the country. There's a lot of gender-based violence. The threshold for violence will always deal with those at the bottom of the pecking order of society. And in a society, 3 people are at the bottom of the pecking order, or 4 groups of people are at the bottom of the pecking order: women, children, persons with disability, and the poor. And woe betide you if you are a female child with disability that is poor.
That's a sorry one. Okay, just to wrap this all up, I would want to ask what global right, of course we know what global right is doing, but at this point in time, the interventions global right is doing, and we'd also like you to talk about the summit, the upcoming summit.
Well, so Global Rights has done a lot of work in just articulating what is happening in Nigeria, keeping a data on the mass atrocities going on across the country and issuing advisories to the government. We've been able to set up an advisory group known as the Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities that regularly issues advisory to the government and to agencies of government on mass atrocities, giving early warning reports to them to ensure that we're able to curb these issues. We've also spoken a lot about, we've done a lot of work around gender inclusion as a way to reduce violence in society and ensure greater security in our society. Right now, we have been issuing advisories to the government on the protests, on the need to ensure peace, and also to protesters as well on the need to ensure that they're orderly and how they can work together. We will be hosting a Mass Atrocities Summit here in Abuja later this week, and it will focus on the government's duty to protect, which is something we often ignore. The government spends a lot of money on security, more on defense, on ensuring that we have the military is equipped, we have guns, we have bayonets, we're able to go to war against insurgents. But the first step to ensuring security is to take care of your people. Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution says that the primary purpose of government is to ensure the security and welfare of all citizens. The security and welfare of all citizens ensures, first dictates that the 20 million children out of school in Nigeria are enlisted in school, that we have healthcare that is accessible to all and not just to the rich, that we are protecting mining host communities that were now being attacked by insurgents that are using the minerals to fund their activities, that we are protecting women and girls and also boys from sexual violence in our country, that we're being respectful, government policies are respectful and humane, as Section 17 of the Constitution also tells for it to be. So yes, the Mass Atrocities Summit is also looking at food insecurity and how it has been exacerbated by the current context of insecurity and how it will aggravate further insecurity if it is not dealt with. So it's going to be a two full packed days of meaningful conversation and paving a way forward for Nigeria, its government and its people.
Okay, so I thought we were going to wrap that up, but I'm just tempted to just ask one I would like to know your successes after you said you've listed how global rights have been intervening. So we'd like to know how the successes that you've recorded in this intervention.
Well, let me start from what may not look like such a big success, but is. We started to count the number of people who were killed in mass atrocities across Nigeria. We were the first organization to do so, especially when the media was gagged. And you will note since then, there are about 5 other organizations that are now actively also counting, and it's forced the government's hand to begin to report on the number of people killed in the various crises across Nigeria. The Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities has also been able to speak on a number of crises, avert disasters, especially in states like Kaduna State and Sokoto State, avert disasters before they occur. It's also led to the army being more careful in their human rights record, because we're also taking accounts of them and we're publishing them. And that way, they found the reason to be more careful in respecting human rights. So I think that we've achieved quite a bit in that regard.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, data and keeping track are big deals because it helps one, to sort of know if there's a growth in whatever you're doing. So I think that is something worthy of worthy of note. So we've had Abiodun Bayewo, she's the Executive Director of Global Rights Nigeria, on today's segment of That Gender and Women Voices. Thank you so much
Thank you again for having me.
Yes, sir.
While booking table for 2 and enjoying cracked chicken thighs and digging into that very yummy ice cream, have you ever considered telling your spouse how detestable that body odor is? Or are you willing to work on your own body odor, that is, if you know you have one? On Girl Talk Unusual, we'll be talking about body odor. How are you going to control body odor if you have one? And how are you going to tell your spouse if you are suffering from one?
It's been said that using antiperspirant, deodorant, and regular bathing with antibacterial soap may help to reduce body odor. Avoiding spicy foods and caffeinated beverages may also help. Then if you have a spouse that has it, or if you have it, of course, we've already told you what you could do to help. And you could just tell your spouse, if you are willing to share a lot of things that I do not really want to mention, you and I know, if you're willing to share with that spouse, then why not just bring it to his or her notice? Maybe when you're already on a good mood, you may not necessarily need to throw jab. That is, if the person doesn't accept jabs or playful insults, just subtle tell the person it's something you can work on. I noticed this and this. I probably think you have a long day, or you had a long day. You can work on it. I love you, right? So I think that is the most subtle way you could tell And also, apart from telling, help the person to work on it. Don't just buy perfumes, don't just buy deodorant. Try as much as possible to keep tab and help the person. Have you had your bath tonight? Even if you're not together, have you had your bath tonight? Did you shave? Would you like me to get you some? Of course, you can do that. If you have a partner that you cannot talk to a man, I shouldn't tell you what to do. Okay, so that's it on this segment of Girl Talk Unusual. See you next episode. Bye.
And that's all we have on this episode of That's Gender. You can always join the conversation, of course. You can click on the notification button to always get the prompt as it comes. And like I told you earlier, you can join the conversation, send in your topics. Let us know what you think about on That's Gender. I remain at Sinuke Nuke. Do stay safe and bye for now.